Hey, Natsu here. Today I'm going to do part 7 of my What If Deku Had a Leveling System. In the last part he got a bracelet to hide his magic. Basically this is just like in that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Sorry, my mouth didn't want to say anything. Rimuru has a mask to do that. Izuku has a bracelet. Over the story, he will get some that are more powerful, because there is only a certain amount of magic that a single bracelet can hold, so he will need multiple more after a bit, or to simply actually get some that are more powerful. So he is level 1100 and is at 221 years of age, as well as having his stats high enough to be just under the high level standards for the strength of this continent. So, he was leaving the Dragon's Cave to go to the Elvish Kingdom, which will take multiple days of walk, since he tries to most of the time actually not use his magic to travel. It's about a 10 days of walk. If he decided to fly at the best that he could, he would probably be there in about an hour or so. And so he left. Before leaving, he decided to, rent. Well, not rent, but let's say buy a carriage to basically just bring him to the elvish kingdom, and there he'll just leave it there to someone else that basically is in the same group that the guy from where he bought it. Just so that he could sleep in something, since he doesn't need to keep everything in it. It's basically just a place for him to sleep, while the horse are just sleeping standing up. Since, yes, this is something. Well, fun fact: horse are one of the rare species that actually can um, be asleep while doing something totally normal for them. Fishes can, shark actually can still swim and move around while sleeping, since they don't have eyelids. They're sleeping, but their brain basically just puts them in autopilot, and they just kind of make sure they just float there and not fall to the bottom. For horses, they basically just have the capacity to or sleep sitting, or sleep, well, standing up, which is extremely funny. So yeah, for the first day, nothing really happened. The second day, pretty much does the exact same thing actually. He was just going. On the third day, there was a difference, which was that there was a thunderstorm, so he had to hide, as well as hide the horses, under a magic barrier that he couldn't really move. So he was kind of stuck there until it was over. He saw a cave a bit further, so he decided to stop using the barrier and go there. Inside of the cave, there weren't that much things. Basically, there was enough space for the horses, the carriage, and him. And so he was able to hide them there to wait for the time to pass and for the thunderstorm to stop. While waiting in the cave, he decided to mine a bit to see if he could find anything useful in the cave. Since he just wanted to know. So he started mining, making sure that the cave would not fall on top of him and the horses, because he would survive, but probably not the horse. So, waiting a bit and breaking some rocks. After a small amount of times, he, well, simply put, he was looking. He decided to look outside to see how bad it was, since it sounded as if it actually became worse. And, well, pretty much it was, well, the same. He just thought it was weird that the sounds were amplified until he realized that he was taking away at the walls, making more space inside of it, and more space where places where the sounds could um, be sent back of to make echo. So he kind of just stopped because it was annoying him. He did find some crystals in the walls. Not a lot, but still kind of a bit. Let's say if I would give what it was, he basically found a crystal that he had, well, seen multiple times before, but normally just in extremely small quantity. Like, the biggest he had seen previously was something like a ball of about 2 or 3 centimeters max in diameter. And what he found was basically a crystal big enough to, in total, take about, well, about 8 or 9 times that amount. So he thought it was weird to find that there, but didn't think too much of it, since the cave did seem to have been left alone for a long time, as if no one even have been in there for way longer than, like, his own life. So, yeah. After a bit, he decided to think about it and try to find a spell that would let him search for items, which he could try to create, but at the same time, the only times he does it is when it is absolutely needed and not just for fun. So, yeah. Since he doesn't absolutely need it, and that it's not actually something he will probably use a lot, he doesn't think that much about creating one, but still keeps it in the back of his mind. The reason that crystal is rare is actually because this is a special type of crystal that is made of about 98% magic, well, pure concentrated and crystallized magic, and 2% of, well, whatever else it was able to enter in. So basically you could have a flower or something that get infused with a lot of magic and basically crystallize to make one of those. But in the shape of a perfect flower. The crystal itself is hard to break when it is in its purest form, because the more percentage of it is magic, or the more concentrated magic is in it, the stronger it gets and the better it is to make weapon with. And this one has a lot of magic. Like, let's say it's um I said 8 or 9 times bigger in diameter. The amount of magic in it, if you would make it, basically drop it to the size of the small sphere he had saw of it before, even if you put it to that amount, there's like 2 or 3 times the magic in it. He doesn't know that, but I'm telling you right now. Because he's going to find out soon. Well, not that soon, but he will find out in this episode. Well, part. So when the storm calmed down, he started walking, well, going again. And nothing happened all the way up till he was at the elvish kingdom. Instead of the 10 days, it took him 11, well, 11 and a half, because of the storm, which didn't bother the guy he was supposed to bring him to, since all they care about is that you pay out when you arrive and ask for a horse, and that at some point at least you give them back the horses and carriage. So, once in the elvish kingdom, the elf queen actually heard of, well, of Izuku being around, because word did pass around in the last 30 years that King Izuku Midoriya was in the continent, and the elf of this kingdom are extremely good fighters as well as extremely good scholars. Their weapon of choices are spears, bows, and swords. Well, not swords, but rapiers, which is a type of sword that... How can I explain this? You know what? This is a rapier. It is a sword that is a lot longer and fine than most swords. Like you can see here, there is something that, well, on the handle, there is something that basically blocks your hand from kind of letting go of it simply normally, so like it won't fall because of that, depending on how you hold it. It's not made for that. I think it was basically just to make it more fancy, but the blade basically has isn't pointy at the end, and only one side actually has a blade on it. That's basically a rapier. And so this is one of the three weapons they mostly train with. They can use magic pretty easily and well, as in fact. They are classed as the eighth species that has the highest natural magic in them, which Izuku would still probably put them to shame right now, since his magic stat is probably like the highest thing he has, if not for his intelligence. Well, no, his magic stat is kind of on par with the other things, but I mean his MP is like bigger than his HP for some reason. And that's simply because every time he learns a new spell, his body augments the amount of magic he has just a bit to make sure he has enough magic to control it. As well as every time he uses magic, he gets more space to keep some, and continuously like that. So yeah, basically he has more magic than someone that has his stats should have. He is just under being classed as a high rank. And basically the queen is called one is ranked as a well, she's actually in the top of the um high. So basically, when Izuku arrived, she basically gets told about him entering, since they don't let anyone enter. They do have, like, they need to look at your passes to know what you're doing here. And he basically said that what he was looking for were books to read, and that he might want to talk with someone placed high in the kingdom. He didn't directly say the queen and king, just say that he wanted to talk with someone that had a high rank. So they just directly went to the queen. She is classed as the best archer of the entire continent, so that's impressive. Okay, so after a bit of going around, he found some bookstore, well, library, which for this one, well, this town, it's kingdom, it's basically everything is in one library except the one that is in the kingdom, and the castle, I mean. So he basically started just being there and reading every book. Like he entered, and started reading and was basically reading like hundreds of book in like hours. Which, when he was about halfway done with the library, The queen was told where he was, and she decided to go to talk to him directly and not wait for him to come to her castle because basically a lot of almost everyone knows that King Izuku Midoriya is on the continent, but nobody knows why he's there. He just seems to be reading books a lot, so she arrives there looking for him and spots him. She is the youngest queen, and the only reason I only call her queen is because she is actually in the 3000 years old only. For an elf, it is young, kind of. And the reason she is already queen is because there was a war about 20 years previous to that, which Izuku would have probably been in if the dragons weren't actually passive when there is a war, unless they are directly attacked by a nation, or that they just decide to attack someone. They won't take part in war. So Izuku was told, you live like a dragon, you don't fight. So the reason the queen was looking for him was because, being a half elf, that seemed to grow in power extremely fast, since she is a lot older than him, and she trained practically every day of her life, and she's just about that point. And she knew that he became an abnormality extremely fast in his old continent. And so, the first thing she tried to do when she was told that Izuku was there was to try and look for his magic. And this is the first time she's able to sense it, and she's only sensing a faint glimmer of magic because of the bracelet. When she finally finds him, she is, the queen is with um, two guards, which one of them is a male, one of them is a female. Basically, they arrive and basically just see Deku grabbing a book, pushing the cover, and then just kind of flipping the page faster than anything they've ever seen. Like, really fast, and because normally you open the book, then you start reading. He's basically just staying at like one page every second and then passing to the next one. And he's basically just reading in massive books. Well, a bit less than a second, since seconds pass like 1, 2, 3. So more like 4 page or something like that. But basically he looks at the page and he knows what's on it. So he passes through books extremely fast. Which, when the queen saw this, she's basically just thinking he's not even reading, he's actually looking for something. Which is true, but he's actually reading. Then she arrives and asks him, do you have a moment? Which he basically just lifts his finger, then finishes his book, closes it, looks at her and says, yes, what is it? Which the male guard is basically offended by this and says out loud, this is the queen of the elvish kingdom. You should be more respect here. You should you should show more respect to her. Basically pointing his spear towards him. He looks at it, at the guy, and just thinks, why would I do that? I'm a king. which she basically tells him that he doesn't have to show as much respect, and he didn't know right now. He is a king. So, which the guy basically says, he might be a king, but he's a young one, and just a half elf. I'm older than you, and you're stronger, but this kid shouldn't do anything like this. Why would he be a king at this age? Which she responds by saying, because humans live a lot less long, live lives that are less long than ours, and that he was in a human kingdom. So that kind of happens like that. Then he still says, yeah, well, he has less power than us. Which Izuku says, do you want me to prove to you why that statement is false? Which the queen looks at him and says, if he wants to fight, I won't stop him. Which she says, yeah, I'm going to fight. Which Deku says, okay, fine by me, but can we go out of the city to do that? I don't want to destroy everything here. Which the queen oblige and uses a spell that she created herself, which is a teleportation, and she teleports them about 2 or 3 kilometers away from the city, and tells them to fight it here, since it should be enough space. Which Deku says, yeah, that should be good enough. When they finally. When Izuku places himself in a certain position, which is a fighting style on hand to hand that elves are actually prone to use normally, since it is mostly a fighting style that that old warrior used, which he basically got from one of the book he read. So, after a bit, well, not after a bit, but when the battle started, Izuku was just kind of not showing at all his power, actually not attacking at all. And then he said, so, how high are you in rankings? Which he basically says that he is just over, well, how can I say this? Well, what was it actually? Because he isn't classed as normal, but he's not classed as high, and I don't remember what it was. Like, the guy's just over normal ranking. So, uncommon. And Izuku basically laughs at him, saying that he is just shy of being in the rank of being of high power for this continent, which the elf basically laughs at in his face. You come from the weakest continent. Don't make me laugh. Which Izuku decides to oblige, and basically just one punches him. Which the queen says, that was interesting. The elves start trying to go get back up, saying, your magic is weak. You're supposed to be a half-elf. What is this? How did you get so strong? Which Izuku says that he is 221 years old. He trained since he was 14 to do as much as he could, and he has the skill to learn any magic or skill that he wants to pretty fast. Well, no, he basically just says, I have the capacity to learn any magic just by reading the name and the effects of it. I was looking for that name word. So the guy then repeats, yeah, but your magic is so weak. How would you even use them? Which deku then removes the bracelet. And the queen and both the guards are trying to feel his magic, and they basically start being flooded by an overwhelming amount of magic. Then she asks, well, the queen asks Izuku, are you sure you're not actually an abnormal for here? I would class you in high at the minimum. Which she says, yeah, but every time I learn a new spell, my magic actually increase. So it's a bit more, oh, misleading, I should say. Which she then puts back the bracelet on, and the queen tells him that if he wants, they can speak, because she has something to ask of him. Mostly now that she saw his power, and she asked how he got that strong, which he said that for the last 30 years he's been training with dragons, which she asked him what he meant by that, and he turned into his training dragon form. Reason I'm saying training is because it's the one that makes him 20 times weaker. And he basically says that for the 30 years he had to be in this form to train with the dragons, which she says, okay, so what kind of training did you do? You're a dragon, you're a lot more powerful now, which she says, no, actually, they taught me that spell to actually use it and become like this. This spell actually reduces your power by 20 times, which basically means that he only has 5% of his full power, but that if he trains in that form, well, basically he's explaining it to her that if he trains in this form, once he finishes trainings, he's going to get 20 times stronger back in his normal form. So 20 times the force that he has in his dragon form. Which he then says that he wants to augment the amount that it is reduced, but he isn't able for some reason. He isn't able to get the trust of the spell to actually make it like that. He was able to make a dragon form that doesn't do anything to his power, only increase his size and physical strength because of the more powerful body, and one that doubles every stat he has: HP, magic points, strength, defense, stamina, stuff like that. He basically explains that to her, and the guards are basically just thinking, what the hell is this guy? He trained with dragon just to make himself like this? Then she asked him, so how do you get this much power? You come from the weakest continent. Even with training normally, There is a limit. And what's your power? What's your level? With Izuku saying 1100. Why? And then she just responds, because at my level is around, well, my level is about 2050, 500. I started training just like 100 years before the war. My power was really low, and yet I'm kind of hitting a ceiling, which Izuku thinks is weird, and use the appraisal. I don't remember if I said if that he had it, but yeah, he has a spell to, as long as he sees someone, he can basically know almost everything about them. So he basically says that she should be able to continue to increase her power. The problem is her body. She needs to train it in a different way that he's doing. Which she's asking, what does he mean? She's doing everything she can with the rapier, bow, and spear. And he says that that's not the problem. She asks him what? You had to do a lot of training, push-ups, something like that. What was it? Which Izuku says, well, for practically everything, all I was doing was reading. Which she then says, yeah, I saw how fast you read. Well, what were you looking for in those books so that you didn't actually stay that long on the pages? Which she says, oh no, I was reading. I can just look at a page and turn it, and I already have everything in memory. I can read a page in like a quarter of a second, so it's not really that much of a problem. So after a bit, which, yeah, pretty easily to think about, but they went back to the castle. Well, to the library first, because he wanted to finish reading all of the books, which he decided to wait around and read some of them as well. Then they went to the castle, which for the entire library took about just under 2 days. So about a day and a half at first before she came to meet with him. Then another half of a day before they went to the castle, and then he said what he was looking for, which she says that she knows where the book is, that she's not, that nobody is supposed to touch it, and then he shows the um, two other books that he already has. Then the guard still says, yeah, but she's not supposed to give it to you, so bug off. Which, at this point, Izuku decides to remove his bracelet and says, do you want to go at it? I need it. You don't know what I've been through. Which then he says, you're just a kid. What does it matter? Which infuriates, well, literally turns Izuku to the path of anger at this point. Which Izuku turns back to him, looks him straight in the eyes, and activates all of his Dragon Force, God Force, and Demon Force all at once. Basically, putting so much energy, well, yeah, so much energy around his entire body that the entire continent basically felt a massive raise of power in about a second. And just from the power Izuku has, it would have raised the rank of the continent from second lowest to fourth lowest. Simply with the amount of power he gained from activating all of the elements of Dragon Force, Demon Force, and God Force. Because of everyone else that is lower than him, it did train the low parts, but let's say he was alone on a continent, he would probably only be classed as, let's say, the 9th lowest, if not the 10th lowest. Which is a lot. Mostly thinking that I decided that there would be at least 50 continents on it. Probably 52 or 53. One of those. So being 10 just from the power of your own body alone does mean you would be strong. And just from that, he basically made everyone in the continent feel as if something bad was about to happen. Which he then just kind of catched himself about 5 seconds after. And the guy was basically just shaking because he felt all of the power of the guy that he just insulted multiple times about 12 hours earlier. And that this is going to keep increasing. Since Deku said that he can still train easily. So the guy got afraid. Everyone in about 200 kilometers around Deku basically almost killed everyone that had weak powers or weak wills, basically passed out. Everyone that had strong enough will and magic to basically hold it. Well, out of all of those people that weren't passed out, about 98% of them or shed their pants, pissed themselves, or literally started barfing because it was way too powerful for them. Even the dragons were afraid of him, which means something at that point. Only because normally he isn't able to actually activate more than 4 at once. Like 4 different Dragon Force at once. If he does push himself, he can go further, but normally it does leave strain on his body. For some reason, he just in that single moment, every one of them activated just when he thought force. He just wanted to activate one of them to kind of push the guy down, but for some reason he just activated all of them at once, and basically after doing that he collapsed himself, literally passing out because of the amount of energy he just let it go of. Like, it was just a wave of energy that for 5 seconds was activated, or did. Once he stopped, he basically felt all of that exhaustion hit him at once. And the guy wasn't even, like, going to try and say something against that. Like, yeah, no, he's too powerful. Then comes in the 2% of people that weren't, in those that weren't passed out, that didn't shit, piss, or vomit because of his power. Those people, well, from those people, there are only about 80% of them that were afraid. The other 20%, what they did was thinking that something happened and someone must have unleashed a monster, because there is a monster hidden under the entire continent that has a lot of power, but is sealed in a special magic prison. And Izuku basically had the power to rivalize with that. Rivalize. He was basically equal to that, which for the some people that knew about it, they almost shed their pants for that reason, not because of the power it was, just because, oh shit, did he came out? When it finally calmed down 5 seconds after, they all of them basically went to check on the spell, seeing that nothing actually had happened, and decided to try and find where that power came from. During that time, about an hour had passed for Izuku, and he finally woke up. Sorry. Yeah, so he basically woke up, and the queen literally had the book and was handing it to him, saying, "You're taking this." um, the guard she had with him, she had with her, well, the guy literally didn't even come. The girl one did stay with her because she knew towards who the anger was placed. And she said that if there's anything he needs, just to tell her right now, because he probably will need to go to the next city, which is, well, to the next point where he needs to go, which is a beastman city, well, kingdom. The king is a white tiger. Well, the beast he is part of is a white tiger. And she tells Izuku that this guy actually have, well, he just actually hates everyone that doesn't show the power to be a king. If they come to talk to him as equal, like all that he sees as equal, they are king or queens and people like that. If a peasant tried to talk to him as if they were equal, he will be mad at that, because no, we are no equal. You are lower than me. I will accept to be friend with you, but don't talk to me as if we knew each other already 2000 since we were kids. No, we didn't know each other at that time, so it doesn't work like that. So she told Izuku that he should be okay, unless the guy decides to tell him that he needs to prove himself. If that happens, just put one of your Dragon Force on and remove your bracelet and just go all out on him. He needs a reality check. You literally became royalty out of sheer will. So it should prove to him that not all people need to be born in royalty to be one. Which Izuku kind of laughed because, yeah, true. And so Izuku decides to ask her if she could find a way to make him one more bracelet because this one seemed to be cracked. Not because of the force he placed on it, but because of the fight against the guy, because he was mostly blocking with one arm, the spear, basically just kind of pushing it out of the way, and the spear kind of gave a hit on it. So it was kind of cracking. So she decided to tell him that she's going to give him two, so that he have a spare one afterward. And so about a day later, since let's say she had already some that were made, well, since there are places where they made them, so she just went and looked for the two strongest and basically just grabbed them for him. And he decided to put both of them on just to hide his power completely. So now he basically looks like, well, a human. Because for some reason humans do possess magic, but they are the only species that basically um, almost don't even have magic in them. Like all the magic they actually use is magic that is in the area surrounding them and that pass through their body. So like, let's say you're in a place that has a massive amount of magic. You can use spells that use magic thanks to that magic, but your body still has a limit on how much magic it has in it. Remember, it's just for that world, basically. So, what you use is the magic around you. You still have, for practically every other species, they can use magic, but for them, they use the magic inside of them, which is the big difference. Since rare, there is a rarity that is about one out of every one. Well, one out of every 100,000 humans basically have magic in them, and those are classed as, well, they're classed above a lot of other humans because they have something that other humans don't have. So they are irregular, but simply because they have the capacity to hold magic. So, yeah, after basically getting that, Izuku decides to leave and go to the Beastman Kingdom. And basically, that's kind of what happens. He didn't get any level for this place. He read a lot of books, but almost 3/4 of them were that he had already read. Um, Out of the rest, about 2/3 of them were basically things that weren't even giving him any intelligence because they were kind of like just cooking books or stuff like that, which he does still find interesting. But cooking books are like not really giving a lot of XP. So intelligence do go up still, but a cooking book doesn't give like the same amount of XP as a skill book, like a book that explains what types of skill something can be, the classes of skills, or skills that people had a long time ago, and if you have something close to that, well, that's how it works. that's basically what that's basically one of the lowest thing that a book can give you, but still gives a lot more than something like a cooking book. And if you already read a book, the second time you read it, you don't get XP. So yeah, he didn't get any level from this place. He did learn about 7 new spells, and most of those spells were just like, well, one of them is literally just to be able to grow a single tree to basically have firewood. One is just to make a water bubble out of thin air, which basically anyone who has the water elements can do. The difference is that this water bubble is made of, well, it is a bubble of water that basically explode like an explosion of fire, but with water instead. And other things that were actually useless, but he still read about them, so he has them now. So yeah, this was part 7 of What If Deku Had a Leveling System. If you liked it, leave a like. Natsu, out. Yeah, Natsu, out.